Change is coming at quarterback for the Jags. All top critics agree. But the question is, do you draft raw talent or go with a big money free agent? Our sports team is talking to some experts in Indy that say a veteran might be the way to go. Here's sports director Chris Porter.
From the Farah and Farah Sports Desk, it's First Coast Sports.
Good Friday morning. The workouts will finally begin here today at the NFL Combine. The big uglies, the offensive linemen, and the running backs, they will all be getting after it today. But the big story that we're focusing on today is that of the Jaguars quarterback, in particular Nick Foles, if they're going to get him. This morning, I talked to some experts who say, yeah, Jag fans, you might want him, but beware of this. Do you foresee him being a part of the Jaguars roster in 2019?
Absolutely not.
NFL analyst, the professor, John Clayton, says Blake Bortles' run in Jacksonville is over, and the Jags' pursuit of Nick Foles would be the right move.
Because, it's a perfect fit. And then you figure that, the pressure there, particularly with all the good defensive players that are there, particularly now that they got Marcel Darius, at least an extension, or not an extension, but they got able to get a deal to keep him there. They want to get something better on offense, and Foles can help. He'll know the system with DiFilippo.
Philadelphia Eagles beat writer Mike Kay.
He's a guy that's in complete control of his personality and his leadership capabilities.
Kay says Foles would give the Big Cat stability at quarterback. But most importantly, Foles would add playoff experience to a team that still believes it has a Super Bowl window open with its shutdown defense. But some are concerned that outside of the Andy Reid, Doug Peterson era when he was the full-time starter, he struggled. Should the Jaguars fans beware of who they're asking for?
With Nick Foles, there is some concern that he could have a large drop-off. You saw what happened in St. Louis when he went to a situation where he wasn't set up to succeed. And I think he's going to be very picky in free agency because he knows what it's like to be set up to fail.
The Jaguars' chances of locking up Foles to a deal?
And you start to look at the quarterback landscape. How many teams are going to be able to pay whatever it's going to cost on Foles? Now, maybe it's not going to be 23, 22 million. Maybe it's going to be 20 million. Maybe it's going to be 18 million. Whatever it is, it's something that I think the Jaguars can afford. Where you look at Washington, they've got to find a temporary replacement for Alex Smith. They can't pay as much as Jacksonville can. And then you look at a couple of the other teams. Really, they're not there. Giants are going to stay by Eli Manning. Oakland's going to stay by Derek Carr. So really, it's clear sailing right now to get Nick Foles.
So here's a quick look at some of the other quarterbacks that might be available to the Jaguars if they cannot land Nick Foles. And don't forget to join us on ABC 25 on Saturday. Number one, the workouts, quarterbacks, tight ends, wide receivers will be getting after it from 1 to 3. Then after that at 3 o'clock, join us for our Jaguars Combine special. We'll have all things Combine, all things Jaguars. That is all the time that I have this morning. Roll out of bed and have a fabulous Friday.
And you as well, Chris.